Figure out where the hell I'm at.
Hey, everybody. Okay, we are live. So, hello, everybody. I am Annette the Peacemaker. How are you doing? Today, we are streaming live on my Facebook, my personal Facebook timeline, Annette Anderson. And you can also find us on the Yang Gang Report live, also on Facebook. And then you can find me also on my YouTube channel called Annette the Peacemaker. If you do happen to go over to YouTube, which would be fantastic, so I could get some views over there, be sure to like the video and please subscribe to my channel because I really would love some more followers. That'd be amazing. So here we are. Today with me are my very, very dear friends. I consider both of these people on the screen with me my family, and I love them both dearly. And today we are here to talk about, we're mostly going to talk about like poverty and how hard it is to get help for when you really need it. For example, what prompted this is because we all have a friend named Grace who is in the Yang Gang, and she has cancer right now, and it's like really bad. And she just got done with chemo. She is very, very poor. Gets very, very little help with like no like state funding or anything like that. I guess her food stamps are like 50 some dollars for a family of 4 adults or something. It's just ridiculously low.
And she gets Medicaid, but Medicaid doesn't even cover all of the medical procedures or things she needs. It sure as heck doesn't cover a roof over her head or food or transportation
Right.
to the radiation treatments and all that.
Right. That's another thing. Another part of it is, so she lives in Missouri and she lives in one town, but she has to travel to Lake of the Ozarks to have her treatments done. And like she can't afford a motel every time or the gas. Like she's had to give up chemo treatments before because she didn't have the gas to drive to get the treatment done and then drive home. Plus, the treatments last like my treatments were just like one day. I went in for 4 hours, and my chemo treatments were different than hers. Hers, she like gets treated 2 days in a row. So she has to go there and stay overnight and have her second day of treatment, and then she can come back home. And all that. And like she can't afford to buy the proper food that she needs. She needs to be eating very specific healthy foods, and like $53 I think is what it is that she gets, and she can't
Annette, you froze.
Uh-oh. We're twinsy, triply twins.
Hey, we almost really are twins. I mean, look at my glasses. They are shaped exactly.
We're triplets right now.
Yeah, these are cheap frames. I got these at Sam's Club. I love these frames. These
are nice. I like
these
it.
Are fucking awesome.
And it's a robot.
God,
Automation now.
I hope. Oh gosh. Oh, I hope Annette doesn't have to start this all over because she froze really. Yeah, she got bounced. Oh shit.
Maybe she could just jump back in.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that it doesn't cut off all the important stuff that she was saying.
Oh.
Yeah. That had to do with Grace and, what's going on with Grace.
Yeah.
And Grace's family. In the meantime, I'm going to beep bop over here. I got to check my charts. But yeah, Mikey, I get really upset at stuff like this. I really do. You
Yeah.
know, I do.
Yeah. So
You know, and it is a righteous anger.
yeah, it's a totally acceptable anger. So I mean, things were horrible. Imagine, I mean, like now it's even worse, and people are normalizing this. It's like this is not normal at all.
It's just that you shouldn't have to look like a porn star or a hot young Barbie or a fucking model
Exactly.
to be
It's like,
cared about and to be helped and to
what if I just
have
want to live
have
life?
your voice elevated. You shouldn't have to have, you know,
Hmm.
middle class privilege to have that either. You know,
So sorry, my internet cut off for a minute, so I don't know what I missed, but apparently you guys kept going.
yeah, we were just hoping.
So what did I miss?
Well, no, nothing. We were just saying that we were hoping that you getting bounced didn't result in losing for the show all the important stuff that you opened with to address these issues that we're talking about today. That got captured.
No, I think my internet just. I think it'll be okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, so I put out a post sharing Grace's post with her PayPal, and here's the issue. So she can't set up a GoFundMe because that will count as income for her, and if she gets any kind of income, then they take it away from her SSI, and she could lose her food stamps
and her
Medicaid. Okay. So
What the hell?
so if she makes even like $5 extra or something like that, they'll take $5 off someplace else. And so then nobody commented. That's been up for like what, 2 days now? I have well over 1,000 friends on my friends list, well over 1,000. And no one commented. No one hit the like button. No one hit the sad button. Nothing. Just crickets until Jacqueline stepped in and said that she was going to set up a GoFundMe. Well, get this.
At the risk of losing my Medicaid, because if I set up GoFundMe, even though it's not my money, it's going to her, I'm the one that gets a tax liability for the donations received. I'm also the one that would get that counted against as income. And if I earn more than $40,000, I lose my Medicaid. Well, I don't have $40,000 a year. I'm also a diabetic. So for me to lose my Medicaid, if I don't have an income of at least $150,000 a year, because diabetes is not a cheap disease, let me tell you, I'd be in the soup real fast. So I'm trying to look at workarounds for how to do this for her, because I think Grace's main barrier wasn't so much that she'd lose the SSI. It was that she is unbanked because having been on SSI as a poor disabled woman, she ran into problems with overdraft charges at her bank, and she could never, so she's in the check system, so she could never get that straightened out, because when you don't even get enough to live on SSI, there's no money to pay racked up overdraft fees. But she has PayPal, which I could have, set up the GoFundMe, and then minus the tax liability that I would have, because I would pay for that. This is after GoFundMe scalps for their fee, for all their fees, which include their payment vendor, which I think they use either WePay or I think they might use PayPal. I think they do use PayPal, but they take out for their fees off the top. Then, as the fundraiser owner and organizer, I would be slapped with a liability for taxable income, because we're talking about cancer, raising money for a cancer patient here. We're not talking about $5,000 for a car. We're talking about $300,000, because we're talking about stuff that Medicaid won't cover.
Yeah.
We're talking about housing for her family. We're talking about transport to get to the medical appointments, because the cancer is not going to just sit there on hold until some kind decides to help her out with a ride. Okay? Because that's why she missed chemo.
Right. And
she got some.
And she doesn't have a support system. She doesn't have like a local support system either. She has family there, but she's relatively estranged from her family. Not the family that she lives with, but like the family outside of the household. Like she doesn't have friends that are going to come over and help her cook anything. The family won't help. Outside family won't help her in any way. So you and I appear to be the only people really helping her. The only people that really give a shit whether she lives or dies, or whether she's going to be sleeping in her fucking car tonight when it's 20 below zero in the winter in Missouri. And so like it's infuriating for us because like we are at the point where like we put our own selves at risk to try to alleviate her risks, and neither one of us are in a position to do so. I have bought her food with my own food stamps because Amazon will now let you use food stamps for certain. They've got like a food stamp section, and they have certain things that are approved, and some of those things are something that she needs. So during COVID, they have bumped up the food stamps for us anyway.
Yeah, except
our food stamps got a good solid bump. So with that extra money, I had some stuff shipped to her, like those little Ensure drinks, and some Propel, which ended up being too sweet, but she likes those Ensure drinks. Those really help her. So I used my food stamps and I sent her some Ensure.
I was just going to say, they didn't even allow destitute people with no income at all, except food stamps, which is not money, to even be able to use the food stamps to buy food online through Instacart or Amazon, at least not in my state, until the very end of 2020. The very end. So you can imagine being poor.
Yeah, it is a relatively new feature. It's definitely a newer feature. So
you can imagine being poor and diabetic with no car and nobody to help you because your husband, you don't have a family, and your husband's family is all poor and they're not making it, and nobody has a car, to help you so you can go to the store, right? And
right. So like my point, go ahead.
I was just saying that
you go ahead and finish.
I begged for help because it was literally a matter of life and death. And even Scott Santons, he plugged my Patreon and put out the word and used his platform and his voice in this movement to try to garner some help and support for me. Not one person answered the call. Yang Gang Russ, Grassroots Yang Gang, Russ and Eliza. I was interviewed on his show. He put out a call for help and support for me. Other than him and his wife, nobody in that chat who was watching, many who have good paying jobs and who are living comfortably and who don't have disabling health problems, stepped up to the plate. So, finally, it's like, and like I said, I can count the angels on one hand, minus a pinky and a thumb, who stepped up to help me so that when I did get my COVID check, I would at least have the chance to do something I can do, which is try to turn that little bit of money into a little bit more to dig my way out of life-threatening poverty. I'm talking about living in a house without a working, functioning heating and hot water system poverty in a part of the country where it goes down below zero, and that pellet stove is not enough to heat up the whole the space that it needs to heat up. That when it goes down into the teens, it's 40 degrees in my house. Okay. And, this is what I'm struggling with. And begged for help, only to get ignored. Didn't know if I was going to make it through one more day in life-threatening poverty. Until one or two, angels stepped in. But it's like what I have to work with. It's like I'm not going to be able to fix my life very quickly. What is a $55,000 roof replacement was a $5,000 roof repair 10 years ago. And as a poor Gen X woman, I was pushed out of the economy permanently after the crash of 2008. And this was before I became diabetic, before I developed Crohn's disease, and before our vehicle got repossessed, which flushed my credit down the toilet. And I'll never recover from that. There's no way I'll ever be able to afford to buy a car unless it's cash on the barrelhead. So I have no chance now of getting employment because I don't have enough skills and experience or references to get a work from home job. The only thing I could think of to do was the last thing I had left available me to try was use the knowledge I had acquired, to be a trader, to trade that $2,400 COVID check up to hopefully enough that I can get above the pattern day trade rule limit so that I can, so I don't ever have to beg for help or beg for my life only to get not helped again, because there's only just so much you can deal with that. And it's like there are people in Humanity First that are poor, like in our shoes, that were trying to elevate my voice and garner some support. Nobody dropped anything. It's like my life wasn't even worth, the equivalent of what people living comfortably are blowing on fucking Netflix every month. But I see that people who aren't poor, I've seen people who aren't poor and who, at least have a car. Okay. And not having a car can be a life and death issue when you can't get to medical care. I'm diabetic. I can't just shut off the diabetes and wait until maybe some kind soul donates a used car to me, because it's going to be a long time before I have enough money to buy a used car, cash on the barrelhead, because that's the only way I'll ever be able to get one. Because of losing everything from the crash of 2008 and never getting helped, and without a car, I can't get to my diabetic medical appointments. I get my insulin delivered by mail, but I need to go for lab work so that my primary care provider can legally continue to prescribe insulin to me. But without a car, I can't get to the lab to have my blood work done, to test my fasting numbers. I can't get to the endocrinologist that I need to go to for, because diabetes is an autoimmune disease that attacks the pancreas and shit. Type 2 I'm talking about. I got literally no medical care the entire year. I don't even know how we're going to get COVID shots because we have nobody to help us with a ride who's going to be willing to then wait or, with us so that we're not standing outside in a long line, which my husband and I, being older people, are not physically able to do, waiting for COVID shots and then try to get back home. I mean, so it's like it's been a very slow, painful process where I'm trading without enough money to work with. And because I have such a small account, I'm limited to what I'm allowed to do because I don't have more than 25 grand. So I'm limited by the pattern day trade rule, which restricts me from Not only do I not have all kinds of things available to me that people who are well off have, but I'm actually restricted by industry-wide rules that are actually a hindrance that make it damn near impossible for anybody who's poor to succeed at what I'm doing and what I've been struggling against the odds to try to do. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Annette. You had your hand up.
That's okay. So,
and nobody helped, by
Lance on my, yeah. So Lance Carlton on my personal timeline says tax returns should help with that. Basically, God dang it. I keep getting a bunch of messages.
You got to have an income.
Taking up my screen. Okay, tax returns should help as well. And that was my response is yes, but if you don't have an earned income, you don't get a tax return. I haven't filed taxes for at least 5 years because I don't have an income other than my Social Security. And in fact, they do take money. They take taxes from us. I get taxed on my Medicare. I get taxed on my Social Security.
So does my husband.
You know, they take tax money out, but they certainly don't ever give any back. You know, so tax return, when you're this poor, Lance, tax returns are meaningless. We don't even see them.
They only help people.
I tried to go file once, even though I didn't have an income, because I felt like it was the right thing to do. It's been beaten into our brains ever since I've been, you know, working since I was like 16 years old, that you got to file taxes. It's your duty. You got to file taxes. So I go in to the H&R Block and I wanted to file taxes. And that guy laughed at me. He's like, ha, ha, you don't have to file tax. Like, you are so poor. What the fuck are you even doing in my office? It was like that. He laughed at me because I thought I was doing the right thing by filing, even though I didn't have any income to report.
Well, the thing is, too, is that, you know, there really is no help for the poorest. And I was able to trade up my account a little bit, but nowhere near enough to really be able to, you know, get myself out of the woods. And without a car and not able to get to the medical care, I can't just shut off my diabetes until I can make this work for me. And when you have so many barriers to entry going against you, number one, without a car, I can't get a job outside the home. 2, I have complications from diabetes that are not curable and not reversible that actually prevent me from being able to work at most jobs outside the home anyway. Number 3, if nobody would give me a chance for a job 10 years ago when I was 10 years younger, before I got sick and before I became diabetic and before my truck got repoed, what the fuck makes anybody think I stand a snowball's chance in hell in getting a fucking job now? Are you stupid? Sorry, but just no. Don't even, you know. And what I guess the latest thing that really stuck in my craw is I was in a humanity hang where one of these guys who's living comfortably, who's not disabled, who's not trying to survive with a deadly health condition like diabetes or worse, like cancer, like Grace is, and like you were, Annette, tried to, you know, give me a stock tip when it was too late for me to get in on it. Because when you're poor, you can't afford to take a chance and risk losing what little you have. When you are poor, when you don't have an income and you don't have a chance of ever getting an income, you can't afford to trade recklessly. You can't afford to take on risky trades. And I'm going to talk about that risky trade. It was the GameStop stock. This was after the stock had already gone up from, within a matter of 2 weeks, it had gone from like $20 a share up to well over $100 a share in the aftermarket hours over a weekend. And I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the call chain, because I don't have enough money to afford to buy 100 shares of stock, unless it's a really cheap stock. And I'm looking at the call chain, and I'm looking at the prices, and it's like, oh shit, everything about this screamed liquidity risk, which means you could be stuck holding an asset that's illiquid, that you can't get rid of, that you can't sell. It's like taking money and throwing it down the toilet. And the call prices on it were $6,600 for one call contract. The actual stock itself was selling, before the next day's open, was selling for well over $149 a share. Well, I didn't have enough in my trading account to afford that. And the thing that I was worried about was that I'm looking at this and I'm going, there's nothing to justify this. I would be getting in too late. I can't afford the risk. It would have been nice if somebody would have tipped me off, because the other people in Yang Gang who have money to trade with and to invest with, they know that I'm that poor human trafficking survivor turned derivatives trader. They know who I am. Yang Gang isn't that huge. These guys knew about me. They know what I'm up against. They also know my living conditions, that I'm not living comfortably, that I'm living in a house in the middle of winter with a roof that I don't have $55,000 to replace, without a heating and hot water system, where it goes down into the 40s when it goes down into the teens outside. It's 40s in my house. We're talking, you're right on the cusp of risking death from hypothermia. You're right there if you go to sleep.
Yeah, totally.
Nobody thought who was more fortunate and luckier in life, said, hey, I'll help you out. Here's the tip. 2 weeks before it really shot off like a Roman candle. No, I get told after it's too late for me to be able to afford to get in on the trade. And then some of these guys are bragging about the hundreds of thousands to millions that they made on that short squeeze. That's what that's what they did. They basically ran up the price to drive out the short sellers from the hedge funds that shorted the stock. And the ones who got in early made out like fat rats, and they're bragging about what they made. And some of these guys are members of Yang Gang. And one of them started a group with traders in it. And I joined it. I was, and he mentioned the suggestion that we should share a percentage of our profits and pool it to create a UBI to help less fortunate people that don't even have anything to have a trading account with to invest with. And I thought, this is a good idea. I'd like to do that. I'd like to help other people in Yang Gang that are living even more uncomfortably than me, as a poor diabetic with no car in a fucking cold ass house with no hot water, right? Because I don't have $100,000 to fix my fucking life. And I thought, yeah, I'll do that. I shot another Yang Gang member $100 for something that they needed, because they needed ID so that they can, could go for a job or file. I forget what the hell it was they were trying to do, but it had to do with, getting some kind of economic opportunity, but they needed to replace their ID, and it's like, my account was in a drawdown from having not had very good luck with, I was really struggling with my trades because of having a small account and trying to navigate this minefield of a pattern day trade rule and all the ways that limits you. And, I still shot that person $100. And I'm not saying that to try to say, hey, I'm applying for sainthood here. I'm just saying that there was no fanfare. There was no, drawing attention to it. It was just paying it forward because I had been helped so that I could trade my COVID check to begin with. And I felt, that, hey, you pay it forward. And it's like, things might be tough for me right now, but I can spare $100 to help this person replace their identity documents. Okay. And, when this guy made the suggestion about pooling, a percentage of profits that we make on any trades that, win for us, I thought this would be a great idea. I thought, wow, I finally found my tribe. And then the same guy, the very next day, in a cryptocurrency group on Facebook, made an announcement to the group telling other members in the group that there's a poor person or poor people who are hitting up members in the group via DM begging for money, begging for help with money, and to not give them any money. This was after he made this suggestion the day before, and I'm thinking, okay, well, who are you really planning on helping with this idea of a UBI started up by traders in Yang Gang, of which I'm not one of the more wealthy ones. I'm not living comfortably. Most of these guys, they have like 50,000 or more in their accounts, and they're living comfortably, and they're not battling things like cancer or diabetes or anything. Not that I begrudge them their good life, but I really resent like fucking hell when people like that are so unabashedly selfish, but yet have the nerve to call themselves humanity first. You don't get to use the poor as a poster child for your so-called cause or your so-called movement, and then tell other people, oh, don't give poor people that are begging any money. There's nothing humanity first about that. I'm sorry. Oh, God. I hope this didn't get killed again. And that just got knocked off the internet again, Mike.
Oh, no.
Fuck. I don't want to have to repeat this again.
No.
It's just going to get me so fucking mad. I'm going to end up fucking smashing something. I'm that fucking angry.
Yeah.
When I look at how I've suffered because of discrimination against women, because when I was a young woman, women had fuck all for opportunities. And what I suffered as a human trafficking survivor for even being able to get minimum wage jobs, throughout my working age years. And to see people that are half my age who have a fuck ton more opportunity and privilege that I ever had act like that while claiming to be part of a movement that's all about humanity first. You're not fucking humanity first. Who the hell are you trying to kid? This is Jacqueline you're talking to. The fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
Fuck out of here.
Feel me, brother?
Yeah.
You feel me?
I feel it.
Sorry, my goddamn internet is worse. The internet is just freaking terrible.
You
and
feel it?
That's another thing. That's another thing that that needs to be worked on is people in rural areas having just shit for internet connection. And we were paying like for the top tier internet. But then whatever happened, and we had to go back down to like the middle tier again. And the middle tier is just crap. And this happens all the time. And I don't know what needs to happen, but like the whole goddamn country needs some better broadband or whatever it is that makes this happen. Because it's super frustrating.
So basically StreamYard lost and failed to capture everything.
No. Oh, fuck. No. Because you guys were still in here. My internet, because the timer is up there on the top, the timer is still going. So it boots me out, but you guys are still. So if I end up getting booted out like that, you guys just keep talking. Just keep talking, because I think the people can still see and hear you. It's just I have to like reconnect to the internet and then jump back in. Yeah.
Well, just to bring it to speed, I was just saying it's not very humanity first for people who are living comfortably and who have a lot more privilege than I'll ever get to have as a poor 54-year-old rural woman who's a diabetic with no fucking car, trying to fix my life, going up against impossible odds to do it, and it's like I'm willing to share when I can, and if somebody else isn't willing to, hey, fine. You have the right to be selfish. You have the right to be a selfish fuckstick. What you do not have the right to do is be a selfish fuckstick. You're able to help while claiming to be humane.
Dude.
While fucking claiming to be
Dude, I gotta tell you this.
First. That pisses me off.
Okay.
I'm done ranting.
Today, I was in this group. Arizona just legalized recreational marijuana. And so now everybody is allowed to grow at home. I already had my medical marijuana card, so I was already allowed to grow at home. And
awesome sauce.
And yes, and we have a friend. Now, it costs a bunch of money to grow at home. You can't just like pick up some random ditchweed seed and grow it. So we have a friend who has been a grower all of his life. His parents were growers. He and his brother are both growers. He is like an expert grower, but he didn't have space to grow. So we are letting him use our space, and he's growing all these plants for us. And it's just going to save us so much money. And he already had all the stuff, all the nutrients, all the right rocks, and he had everything he needed. He had all the like special expensive seeds because his family, like they just have it, fantastic. Like this is just like an amazing thing for us, but I still joined this like Arizona cannabis growers group on Facebook. And today this person, I think it's a male, but I don't really know. So I'll just call them they. So this person puts on like 420 challenge. Everybody go up and give a joint to a total stranger for free and don't expect anything in return. And then one guy says, yeah, are you paying for my re-up? Because that costs a lot of money. You can't just go, I don't just give away my weed, And then he accused that guy of being a capitalistic pig because he wasn't willing to just give away his weed, which is extremely expensive, and all that. So then I, of course, chime in and I'm like, no, I use this like medicinally. I need it. Like I have to have this stuff. I can't just go, I can't afford it. I'm poor. I can barely afford it for myself, let alone. This guy's out there. You were talking about being selfish. This guy's calling me and the first dude that commented socialist, capitalistic pigs.
Wait a minute. How the fuck?
Because
did you be a capitalistic pig?
We weren't willing to just like go give away our weed. And then he got real snarky with me. So I, of course, ended up leaving the group. It did not go well. And I chewed his ass, of course. But it's just so funny that these people that know, they have no idea how hard people like you and I work to help other people and how hard we work to help our own family situations, our own household and stuff like that. And we don't get jack shit. And then there's all these privileged people out there that want to call you an asshole if you don't want to just like give away what little you have.
Well, what
is wrong with you?
But what's worse is that what I got mad about was that it's like I'm not one of the traders who made out like a fat rat on that GameStop stock because I didn't know about it in time. That would have been life changing. That would have been a car for us. That would have
Right.
been a new roof. That would have been a heating system. Okay. That would have
Right.
been that, you know, and it's like I don't begrudge others that got to make out. But what I really resented was the ones who were living comfortably, who damn sure had a lot more to start out with than a $2,400 COVID check to trade and invest with, telling, you know, other people, oh, don't give any poor person who's begging for help in DMs any money. And this is like the same person who made the suggestion
Yes. Okay. So
of pooling profits so that we could help. Now, let me finish this thought, please. My immediate thoughts were for Grace that
okay.
if this traders group, if we were getting together, you know, pooling percentages of what profits we make on what trades we make that end up working out, my immediate thoughts were for Grace because, you know, she's been ignored, just like I was ignored all last year. Nobody in Yang Gang seemed to even care that I got no medical care for a whole fucking year as a diabetic. Yeah. I was promised help, and then, you know, with a ride by somebody who lives 2 counties south of me in my state, who's Yang Gang, who then reneged twice. I had to cancel vitally important medical appointments twice. And it's so it just, you know, it's not so much the selfishness, it's that too. But I mean, this is why poverty is a problem in this country, because the people who are more fortunate are selfish. Most of them are. You know, you have your one or two rare person who's not. So it's like, that's the problem. And then the other thing is that in this humanity first, this group is supposed to be all about humanity first. It's like, if you're not an aesthetically looking, pleasing, hot young chick who's boner bait, if you're not a hot looking young guy who could be, I don't know what young up and coming movie star is currently the hot sauce these days, but
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
whatever, you know, it's like, whatever the fuck. You know, it's like if you don't have middle class privilege, if you don't have a platform with a shit ton of followers and adoring fans and shit dumping money hand over fist into your Patreon or to your whatever on your YouTube channel, and you're not, you know, a hot looking young girl, it's like you could have some really important shit to say and you could be in legit need of support and help, but you'll get nothing but ignored because of celebrity culture. And Ariel, our friend Ariel, tried to bring this point up when he was being interviewed on Nerd for Yang. He didn't quite get there because, you know, he didn't get to, you know how Ariel kind of he has squirrel moments like we do. But he got pretty close to that. And I was, you know, I really am grateful that he did mention me by name while he was talking with Tom from Nerds for Yang. But it's like, you know, I look in the comments section after that interview, and there's some guys slamming on Ariel, saying that he's just a loser who wants to play the victim. You know what? That dog don't hunt with me, because Ariel's my friend. And he was speaking out without getting into violating anybody's privacy. He was speaking out for me and a couple of others in Yang Gang whose voices have been shoved aside because of celebrity culture, because, you know, nobody wants to support or look at, you know, a plain looking, you know, unattractive looking, middle-aged, older woman. Nobody wants to support a legit poor person who has nothing, like our friend Grace. You know, I mean, it's just, he was trying to do this in a roundabout way. And this guy called him, you know, a loser and accused him of Sorry, that was my Thinkorswim platform. It rings this cattle call bell every day when the market opens and when the market closes. Sorry about that. But he was trying to make a very important point, and that is this movement that is supposed to be all about humanity first has really starting to look like it's not about humanity first. It's about grabbing celebrity status and making bank as a YouTube star and shoving aside the poorest and most disadvantaged people's voices who you're using as a poster child to give credence to this movement. And I resent the fuck out of that. You can be fine. For the people who are comfortably off and who are living great, who look like rock stars and have their gigs or whatever, they are free to be as self-seeking and self-serving as they want. What they do not have the right to do is use the poorest and most vulnerable and downtrodden and marginalized people as their poster child to lend credence to their quote cause, which is anything but humanity first. When you've got legit poor people with nothing, whose voices are never heard, who get no support, who are left to beg for months and months and months on end, only to get not helped. At the risk to me of helping Grace at this point is I would get kicked off of Medicaid, which I can earn up to $40,000 a year as a diabetic on Medicaid. Okay, that's above poverty, but I'm not there yet. And if I lose Medicaid right now, I'm dead because I can't get my insulin. I mean, because of not having a car, I'm not even getting the healthcare appointments. I have no idea how I'm going to get myself and Donnie to get our COVID shots at this point. And because we don't have a car, we have nobody to help us with a ride. And, I thought, because the situation with Grace is so severe, because like diabetes, her cancer isn't going to just sit there and go on hold and wait until somebody better off who's living comfortably decides to help her. So she doesn't face being homeless in sub-zero temperatures in winter in Missouri while battling cancer and undergoing excruciatingly painful radiation treatments. And having lost my older sister to cancer from lack of health care, because the cancer wasn't caught in time, because she didn't have health care. She was a poor waitress. She didn't have a quote-unquote breadwinner type job. Those jobs weren't available to women when we were young. So she didn't have a good job with health benefits. By the time they caught her ovarian cancer, it was too damn late. She died while I was a homeless, non-traditional age college student struggling to rebuild my life as a poor, marginalized woman who was a human trafficking survivor that this entire society threw away and let that happen to me in the first place, mind you. So I get it. Grace can't wait. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know how I'm going to manage this, but I want to try to set up a GoFundMe for her, because with people with attitudes like that, don't give money to any poor person who's begging for help. I'm thinking the only way I can give legitimacy to Grace, even though Grace has legitimacy with us, those of us who know her, and try to get her some help, because the Medicaid she gets, the exercise she gets, does not even cover a fraction of what she needs to get the treatments that she needs, to have the transportation of the treatments that she needs, and to have the housing while she's getting the treatments instead of facing eviction because of her situation and shit. And cancer treatments is something you can't have fast. You can't only go for some of the prescribed care and hope that the cancer waits until some kind soul decides to drop enough in your PayPal that you have transportation, you have gas to put in her car. At least she has a car.
Or to even acknowledge that you're begging for help.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I spent the whole of last night and good part of this morning researching how I could set this up, because the way it stands, if I set up or if you set up a GoFundMe on her, for her, on her behalf, since she is unbanked, she doesn't have a bank account because she's on a very, very, very low fixed income. She can't, bring, long overdue, overdraft charges, get those cleared up to have a bank account again. She's operating through her PayPal. So the help that she needs is tremendous. We're talking about upwards of $300,000 for dealing with this shit with cancer. This is between what the medical shit that's not covered by Medicaid and basic living that's not covered by an SSI check or food stamps combined. And I was looking at how I could set this up, because I'm not a nonprofit. I'm just an individual private person who was angry at my own pleas for help last year going ignored, except for a couple of angels who finally stepped in and literally saved my life and made it possible for me to have, however small, at least somewhat of a chance of fixing my life, and at least try to pay it forward by setting something up to help Grace, since Superman obviously isn't coming to rescue her. It has to be us.
Right.
So I spent the whole time researching how I could try to get
even the Yang Gang won't come and rescue her. And it's really disappointing.
Yeah, but they're humanity first, right?
Right.
They're all about trust poor people to make the right choices with money. This is what I mean about using the poor as a poster child to lend credence to a cause, and then giving the poorest and most vulnerable nothing but a big fat fuck you.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the way Grace is being treated right now.
I at least comment. Like, I know that if I don't have the money, I will at least say I don't have the money. But then, like, one day, just recently, I was like, you know what? I'm going to send you $5. That's all I can afford. It's $5 fucking dollars. I know it's not even going to put a dent in anything.
I felt
but
bad.
That's all that I could send. I sent it, I felt bad.
I
know it wasn't. It's not.
I'm struggling for my life, and it's going to be at least another year and a half before I can afford to buy a car cash in the barrelhead, because with the repo on my record, that's the only way we're getting a car. My diabetes ain't going to wait another year and a half without medical care. And
no.
I couldn't really afford it, but another Yang Gang friend who is worse off than me, not as badly off as Grace, but definitely worse off than me, needed help to replace ID. So, he could have economic opportunity. And I felt bad because right after I shot him $100, I saw Grace's plea for help, and it's like, fuck, I don't have it. And I'm struggling. And I'm so sick and tired, from my own experience. I'd rather eat a fucking bullet than ever have to beg for non-forthcoming help again, to beg for my life from people who don't give a shit, but who use the poor as a poster child for their movement. I've seen people in this so-called movement using their looks and their celebrity status and their platform to be attention whores by having fake, I'm not making this up, fake hunger strike shit to say, I'm doing this to draw attention to the poor, to the plight of the poor, when that same individual turned around and smeared a legit, actual poor person who was a member of Yang Gang, who does not live in the United States, and smeared the girl and told other people not to donate to her, that she's just a scam artist. I did some investigation. The girl's not a scam artist, okay? But it doesn't matter, because once, language is some powerful sticks and stones. And once those words leave the building, you can't bring them back in, okay? They're already out. The damage is done. And this is what I mean. It's like people with privilege using their advantages To pay attention
stop.
while using the poor as a poster
Someone
child.
said,
Boy, that pissed me off.
a friend of mine says, stop crying and get a job. So I'm going to address this one, okay?
Go for it.
So what you don't know,
why don't you give me
my friend,
your fucking car and your
that-
fucking job so I can get one, asshole? How do you like me now?
Yeah. So if you've been listening at all,
Fuckers.
Jacqueline was orphaned when she was 12 years old. She was sex trafficked for, I forget for how long. And then when she went to the police, they charged her with prostitution instead of helping her as a sex trafficking victim. And that prostitution charge stayed on her record until she was well into her 40s. And
In the crush
if
of 08.
you've ever tried to get it, huh?
In the crush of 08.
So then
Oh,
no
after the crash of 08.
no one's going to hire you with a prostitution charge.
And lack of
And then
experience when you're a middle-aged woman.
and yes, okay. So you ended up going into the workforce very late in life. You do have a degree in mathematics, is that correct?
Yes, that I went into
You
fucking
managed
debt for.
Right. So you did go
And
to
I earned-
college. You graduated college. You have a degree in mathematics.
And I
You
earned that
are an
degree.
intelligent being. You do
And I
have
earned that
value in this world, but nobody's going to hire you because you don't have the money. Wait, let me finish. Oh, go ahead. You go ahead. You earned the degree.
I earned that fucking degree while literally homeless
Go
and
ahead,
eating
honey.
fucking garbage cans because I didn't have kids. I couldn't get any help. I wasn't living comfortably. I was homeless and eating from garbage cans while having to compete against
Yep.
advantaged middle-class kids with comfortable dorm rooms and meal plans and mommy and daddy to help them with a fucking car payment. I think I've tried more than hard enough. And then the thanks I get for trying when I didn't even have a chance to be able to compete because I'm up against the wall of sex discrimination. I'm up against the wall of additional discrimination for being stigmatized and criminalized as a human trafficking survivor. And on top of that, social class discrimination because being poor my whole life, never having had dental care, before Obamacare paid for Medicaid expansion and I could get my dentures when I was 50, I had to face people with visibly missing and decayed teeth that were rotting and falling out of my head. Try getting a job like that. Go fuck yourself. If you think I'm crying and whining, I have every right to be pissed. The opportunities you got and your privileges were paid in full at the cost of my lack of opportunity and privilege. And I'm owed some goddamn back due rent for that shit.
She says, you and me both.
I've done more than go the
So
third
then,
mile.
so then you became physically disabled and you are married to a man who is older than you, who is even more disabled than you are. And
Yes.
so you as a disabled person have to care for your even more disabled spouse 24/7. And I know him. He is, it says, oh, Lance says, I wish I could, you guys are all on my personal page and I can't put these comments up on the screen from my personal page. I can only do it from the Yang Gang Report or my YouTube
Right.
channel, either or. So I'm just gonna have to stop what I'm doing and read these comments and then we respond. Why get a degree Why get a degree if it's not going to be used? And don't mention your record on applications. They usually don't check.
The fuck they don't. They do background checks. You can be suddenly let go without warning. I've had this happen to me. And that background check comes back because when you put down your social security number in my state and in
my husband had to have a background check so he could deliver lunch. Just so he could deliver lunches for Meals on Wheels. He had to have a background check and got fingerprinted just to deliver lunches.
What I was
a couple hours a day. I mean,
is they pull your credit report when you apply for a job. And I wrote about this because I actually have receipts, okay? If you're poor, if you have bad credit, you get denied employment. Well, when you're poor, you have bad credit because you can never get a chance to get toehold, never build credit, and to have good credit. So I had that. I had the fact that I had to face people. There was no way I could pass for middle class with, dental problems from a lifetime of no medical and dental care from poverty since I was a child. And then on top of that, they do pull and check your background. When you put your social security number down on an application, they do a background check. They check your credit, and they do a criminal background check. They don't have to tell you. And you know what? At-will employment laws mean that they don't even have to tell you why you weren't picked for the job or why you were hired, but then 4 days later, you were suddenly mysteriously let go, even though you didn't do anything wrong. You worked your ass off because you were so grateful to finally get a chance, only to get nothing except let go and escorted past your coworkers like a goddamn criminal out of the premises. And that happened to me.
What?
Yes.
Okay, Lance. Okay, I'd like to add what Lance's comments are right now. So first of all, he says that I have a record, been arrested a few times. They always say to me that it was empty, i.e. they never checked. Okay, well, that's you. I get to respond this time.
Yes.
That's
and
you. That is your situation. You are also a white male. And then he says, also, I have only a few teeth left. So, well, just because you had your experience doesn't mean that other people don't have different experiences.
White males in poverty.
So just because it happened to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen to somebody else.
And you know what? I don't give a shit if anybody gets
thank you, Shannon. Annette is awesome. Please don't. Come on.
You know what? It's a proven fact that when you take a woman,
okay, so
poverty,
this is the point. I'm really glad that these privileged people are up right now, because
I was trying to say something. It is a proven fact that if you're a white male in poverty, even if you're missing teeth and have a record, you'll still get opportunities.
There's a lag, so
you'll still get opportunities and cut breaks where a poor woman with the same problems will not. And that is fact. And I give zero fucks about anybody's feel. If somebody doesn't like it, then I'm throwing out the identity card. Well, then how about you stop goddamn dealing me the identity card from the bottom of the fucking deck? Kiss my ass. I'm not going to be polite about this shit. I suffered an entire lifetime of compounded injustice.
Okay,
and
you froze
person who was
on
lucky
my end.
Got to have a good spot in life.
Now I can hear you. You're really brave.
That got denied a spot. And I give zero fucks if saying so makes anybody uncomfortable. You want to know what uncomfortable is? Try living in a fucking house with the roof falling in that's 40 goddamn degrees with no hot water and no heat. Uncomfortable?
Okay.
Let's talk about uncomfortable. I've so fucking had it.
Okay. I would like to bring it down a notch. Can we please bring it down a notch? Okay?
Yeah,
Let's
tell your
just
friends to not attack me.
take a
and
deep breath and bring
I'll
it down a
cool it.
notch.
But I'm not going to take anybody's fucking shit after everything I've suffered. And
Yes,
my God,
I am. Yes, okay. Oh, okay. So Lance says, and this is where I'm trying to bring it down a notch. So this isn't a solution-based discussion. This seems to just be an anger session.
well, and somebody
Came into this wanting to discuss solutions. So I would.
that are in a position,
Shannon is leaving now, so I would love to take the conversation in a different direction. So
you go have that conversation, but they're not going to want to help because they want to cling to their privileges and they give zero fucks. They want to sit there and feel justified in their selfishness while claiming to be all about humanity first. And I'm here to call bullshit and call them all out as fucking liars because that's what the fuck they are. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I don't have to give anybody.
Shannon, I'm not going to read that out.
I don't have to spend my time educating people who don't give a shit, who won't help, and who don't care. My time's
Can
precious.
I speak, please? Okay. Okay. And so is mine. I'm trying to have a show here where we have like an actual discussion.
All right. Well, you just tell your friends and your audience to not attack me, and we're cool. But nobody gets
two of the people that I have. Okay.
Nobody gets to attack me and then expect milk and cookies from me for it. They can go right the fuck to hell.
Okay. Well, Mikey, now is a great time. Do you have anything you would like to add?
I was going to say,
I know that you struggle. So okay. Yeah, go ahead. Say what you want to say. Oh my gosh.
I'm just sad that like you have to be an extraordinary type of person just to make it, just to like be comfortable in life. It's like
get noticed.
I mean, like I feel like I am one of the best at what I do, and I still paycheck to paycheck.
I mean, he's got a car and a paycheck.
Yeah, it's like everything I make just goes towards bills. You never get caught up. You never get to enjoy anything.
Well, you want to switch lives, buddy? You can have mine.
No, I mean, yours is of course way worse than my situation. But
you're welcome to have mine. I'll take yours for a minute. How's that? Let's switch. And you get to put up.
This isn't a competition at this point. Right now, this minute, it's not competition.
And then you get to put
He's allowed to speak his own truth.
And then you get
so he has his own struggles.
Like her friends just did.
Can you please just let him speak?
I think your friends owe me a fucking apology.
Well, that's probably not going to happen. Okay, Shannon just said, I am sorry and I will listen. Now, Shannon is a very dear friend of mine from way back in high school. So she very rarely speaks up in these threads. This is a big fucking deal to me. And I am happy that she is here. And even though I don't really like the tone, but you know, like there's a whole lot of like aggressive energy flying around, and I'm just trying to calm it down so we can have a rational goddamn discussion, and so everybody gets a chance to speak. So I don't agree with the attacks. I don't think that's okay, but she just said that she is sorry and she will listen. So let me have a moment. Let Mikey have a moment. And please, can we just have a discussion?
Well, I thought that's what we were trying to do before I got attacked.
Okay.
And victim
Okay.
blamed and shamed.
I'm sorry, everything.
I agree with you, and I was in the process I was in the process of handling that. Remember? I said, I'd like to handle this one, please. So, like, here we are arguing in the middle of my damn live stream. This is my live stream. This is my platform. I would like to take control of it now, please.
I'll just don't let your friends attack me and we're cool.
I pay money for this. So,
well, you know,
this is my show.
I have a Zoom account. You're welcome to come on mine to save your money. I have a Zoom account.
Now,
you're welcome.
Mikey, I'm sorry that you were interrupted.
That's all good, guys. I mean,
I
know, Jacqueline.
Come on now. I just went over that. I just went over it, Jacqueline. If you don't want to be here, if you don't want to be here, then you don't have to be. I'm
not going to put up with being attacked. I'm just not going to put up with being attacked by people who won't help and don't care. That's all I was saying. That's all I was saying is that I'm not going to take it. I've suffered too much. And I'm done being polite about it. And that's all I have to say on the matter.
You said that. You've made it abundantly clear. You've made it abundantly clear.
Well, why are you attacking me?
I have addressed it. It's been addressed.
Now you're attacking me?
We are moving on.
You know, I don't have to spend my time
because you're not letting it go. I'm trying to move on.
Yeah, because you're putting the shit to me in front of all your friends after they attacked me. That's rich. Real great.
No, I am not. I am just trying to move the conversation forward, Jacqueline.
You can't make everybody happy, you know. A lot of people won't like what you say, and you just gotta just not care about what people think and say, because they're just gonna do what they're gonna do. And you can get mad, or you can be upset, or you can try to do something about it. No?
I don't believe this movement is even legit anymore. I really don't. I think everything went to hell after Andrew Yang was forced to drop out of the race. I'm sorry. Whatever humanity first that might have existed, 90% of the people in this movement just never took it in, if they ever had it for real in the first place. I made a few good friends, one of whom I defended when he got attacked unfairly the other day on somebody else's show. And I had to straighten out the person who attacked him. It wasn't cool.
Yes. So this is what we came to discuss, is how things have definitely changed within the Yang Gang, and what the possible solutions. That's what I put in the description of this video. Possible solutions of how we can move forward and how we can reignite the fire and get people to give a shit about people again.
I don't think they ever did.
That's what I came here to do.
I really don't think they ever did. I have no faith at all left. Out of maybe 4 or 5 people in the entire movement. And those are people who won my friendship and my loyalty for life. Okay? Who won my friendship But I think for the most part, everybody else was just an opportunistic issue tourist, and they really don't give a shit. They never did. It's just that now their true colors are showing. Now that Andrew Yang is not only no longer a candidate for the presidency, but down with COVID and trying to deal with that.
Yeah, you're right about that. There's a lot of Yang Gang that were in it for just the money, right? They just want to take advantage of other people.
Secure the bag. So,
Yeah.
but just while we've been on here, so there are some true and genuine Humanity First Yang Gang people out there still, and we all know it. So,
Very few.
God dang it! I just went offline. Refresh.
No, I can hear you, Annette. You're online.
Oh, okay. Just got a little thing. Anyway, God, this internet. Oh, there it was. It just restored. All right. So there is obviously like lots of headbutting going on, and it is very frustrating. And not everybody was in it for the same reasons. And so I think this is why we are so angry and frustrated, is because we were in it for that reason. We are genuine Humanity First. We adhere to the Humanity First philosophy whenever possible, you know, like none of us are perfect. We all fuck up sometimes. We all say and do shit that is fucked up or pisses somebody off. And what we need to do is learn how to put some things from the past aside and figure out how to move forward. I tattooed the words Humanity First and Forward onto my arm. It's right fucking here. I look at it every single day because to remind me that humanity needs to come first and we always need to be moving forward. So what are we going to do to move forward? What we need to do is figure out who is not in our corner, okay? And then separate ourselves from those people as individuals. Y'all can do whatever you want. Like if you I've seen people say I'm leaving the Yang Gang because they got in some stupid Twitter argument with somebody, and then that they blanket it all over the entire Yang Gang. And I was like, hey, I had nothing to do with that shit. What are you talking about? You know? And
Right.
so like that, and that's what's happening on Facebook also. Twitter and Facebook are like two different beasts though. Okay. So like the Facebook groups, I've seen like some breaking down happening in the Facebook Yang specific groups. And I admin for several of those groups and pages. And, you know, like we have to look every single day, we have to delete a comment where somebody calls somebody a name, you know, or whatever. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you people? So like, we're just like regressing back to like this former state before we were all energized for Yang, and before we wanted to like be friends with everybody, like everybody everywhere. You remember all that friending frenzy? I had like a couple thousand friends, you know, and I've gotten rid of some because that change is real. It is real. We are all experiencing it. Things have gotten fucked up in some ways, you know?
You think?
But there are the real, yeah, I know. So I've experienced it my own self, and I've had to block people and stuff, you know? It's just really messed up, and I didn't expect that to happen. So now we have to figure out
people who legit need help, who've been ignored, but yet people are running around claiming to be all about humanity first, but they're not really being about it. And they're just using the poorest and the most vulnerable and disadvantaged as a poster child for their cause. Which is what exactly? Who's humanity?
Okay.
Who's humanity?
Lance
first?
wants to join. You guys, Lance, I will let you join. Jacqueline
Join.
and Lance, I will let you join, but you will not scream at each other. You will not tell anybody to fuck off, neither one of you.
Yes.
You will treat each other with respect as human fucking beings. Or I will boot both of you.
Oh,
Hear me now. All right.
He's got the boots. I am Iron Man.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I know that several people have PTSD from past traumas, and all of that screaming and yelling and all that anger triggers me as me. Okay. So just like I am like all like shaking and stuff right now because of all that. What? And that's too much. That's not. Shannon, I love you too, darling. Okay, Lance says give me a minute so we can keep talking for a minute. So I would like to focus because we've already discussed all that other stuff. So now I would like to pivot to what can we do to move forward? How are we going to remedy this? What are the possible solutions? Okay, hold on. I'll get a minute, Lance. Let me copy and paste it again. Copy, paste, go. All right, try it again. Oh, that one looks better. That looks legit. So, yes, this will be the topic of discussion as we move forward. What are we going to do? How can we get back on track again? Because we've lost the light at the end of the tunnel. And I feel like we're all just sort of wandering around in the dark. And like we don't know what to do because we were so into supporting Yang for president. And then I think that we were all just so incredibly let down by that. And I'm not excited about him being mayor of New York. Like, well, that's great for them, but that doesn't do jack shit for the rest of the country, and not even for the entire state of New York, you know? Like, it's just not enough at all. And so I find myself just like not even giving a shit. I still go and look at Twitter every day. I'm still diligent about my Yang Gang duties, you know.
Diane?
But still. Hello, Lance.
Howdy.
How are you? I've never spoken to you other than via text on Facebook. So
Yeah.
welcome.
Howdy. Oh, by the way, Jackie, I didn't mean no harm, no foul. I wasn't trying to be vicious or malicious in any means. So I'm pretty happy-go-lucky guy. But no, I was just sorry. Excuse me. I'm kind of running around the place here. Got the sun. No, I was there's a possible. I'm an idiot when it comes to finances and shit, so bear with me on this possible idea. But I was thinking maybe if it's possible, because you were talking about the GoFundMe and the taxes, or not taxes, but taking whatever you make from GoFundMe away from social network or programs or whatnot. Is it possible to set up a 501c3, a nonprofit, and funnel funds from a GoFundMe to people of need?
It sure is, except the problem is that costs ass tons of money that I just don't have.
Okay.
I'm only
what?
marginally better off than Grace. But yes, to answer the short answer to your question is yes, that is one workaround. It's just that unfortunately, those of us who know Grace and who really are deeply upset about what's going on with her don't have the resources to do it. To set it up properly. You're talking about jumping through, going assholes over tin cups through hoops that would make your head spin, that costs money. You have to pay ass tons of fees. And unless you are unless you're already well resourced and able to afford these costs, it is the barriers are extremely high.
Okay.
Yes, and I can attest to that because I wanted to open the last beauty salon that I owned. The last beauty salon I owned was I ended up opening it as a social enterprise because I was donating haircuts to the homeless and very poor, like for job interviews and things like that. I was donating haircuts on a regular basis. And then I would also go to shelters like the domestic violence shelter, for example, and give haircuts to the ladies there and their kiddos. And then I ended up getting a job there, side note. But I ended up becoming a women's advocate at the domestic violence shelter after going there and donating haircuts. And so it became like an actual real job for me later. But
Cool.
Anyway, so I wanted to set it up as a nonprofit. I wanted a for-profit side that would feed the nonprofit side. Okay. But the process of setting up the 501c3 was just extensive. Yeah. And I, as the owner of the salon, I would have to have a board, a certain number of board members, and somebody else would have to be the president of the board. I couldn't be the president of my own board. And then the board could vote to take over my business. And just like, the board, because I couldn't have any control of the board, because that would be like a conflict of interest, I guess.
Right.
So therefore the board could vote me out of my own business. And I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Could you set up the could the nonprofit be set up in a co-op type format?
That's what I'm looking into right now, to be honest with you. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Don't mind me. I tend to be a little testy. You got to remember, I'm a survivor leader in the human trafficking survivor community. So I've had to play bad cop more times than I can count, because that is like truly the most marginalized group there is in the population. And as a group, we collectively have the shortest life expectancy rates to prove it. second only to Africa's child soldiers. We have an average, unemployment rate of 90% and a homelessness rate of 80%, and the shortest life expectancy out of any other subgroup on the planet for reasons that I was trying to explain earlier, the barriers to reintegrating into society after escaping that hell, usually with no help from the society that threw you away and let that happen to you.
Right.
So one of the things that I've always had to look at was how to set up the logistics for how to get sparse resources to other survivors that are like hanging on by a thread, hang on by their fingernails. We've lost several to poverty and homelessness within the past 3 years before COVID even hit.
Right.
And the thing with this is why I was so upset to see this happen to Grace. I had a very good friend who was a fellow survivor who died at the age of 34 on my 50th birthday back in 2017.
Oh.
Her name was Jennifer Kempton. She had begged for help with a personal GoFundMe for a year to get herself and her baby daughter off the street. Okay. After a transitional housing anti-trafficking charity said, okay, well, you made it through our program. There you go. You're on your own. Good luck. Without, any material resources to actually give her to put a floor under feet to get her stabilized while she would spend the next several years going through the process to get hundreds of prostitution arrests off of her record through the vacature laws. Okay, it's not something that happens instantaneously. Each one takes about 2 years to expunge.
Right.
In the meantime, she had no way to economically provide for herself. And long story made short, she ended up, because of poverty and homelessness, left with no choice except to return to prostitution that she fought like hell to escape from as a trafficking victim. She was trafficked by her boyfriend, who was like her first boyfriend, her high school sweetheart, no less. And she ended up ODing because when your life is so shitty that you can't even handle it without being shit-faced on some kind of drug or alcohol. And that's what happened. She died. And all these people, all these rich white Christian males that have money, that colonized our movement, that monetized what is really a human rights crisis, and monetized a movement that was built on the backs of poor, marginalized women like me, who never got helped by any of those charities, by the way. Not one of them would give $1 to her GoFundMe while she was still alive. A young mother, right? And when she died, it was less than 24 hours later. Tens of thousands of dollars poured in. These people, with their outpouring of their Christian love, pouring out of the woodwork like a fucking termite infestation from hell, dumping money into a burial and final expenses GoFundMe for her. Within less than 24 hours, there was more money put into that GoFundMe that if she would have gotten it when she was still alive, she would have been able to fix her life and she'd still be alive today. Seeing our friend Grace get ignored and not helped when she can't even have a GoFundMe because she's unbanked, it just brought all that rage to the surface. All of it. All of it. And hell has no fury to a woman's scorn. I'll tell you that. I'm sorry, Annette. There's no reason our friend should have to suffer.
So, yeah.
And that's where
sorry, I gotta feed my son real quick.
No, go ahead. No, you do your thing. You don't think the kid will kick your ass
I'm listening. Trust me, the volume's way up. I can hear you in every room. So
I don't doubt that. I'm not quiet.
Okay, so what I was gonna say was that this is more than just about like Yang Gang. You know, like everybody. It's about everybody. Okay. Like, even if, like, I have over 1,000 people on my friends list. And when I put a post asking for help for myself, I can't believe the outpouring of help that I get. It's almost always way more than I asked for. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, I need to drive to this doctor's appointment, but I need like $20 for gas, and I'll pay you in a couple days when I get paid, you know? And it's usually like that. And it's almost always Yang Gang. 9 times out of 10, it's like my Yang Gang friends, and they just like swarm me with money. Yeah. But then if I'm asking for help for somebody else, like I did with Grace, and this woman is literally dying and is about to be homeless in her car in the winter while getting radiation treatments. And that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. If everyone on my friends list gave $1 to her PayPal that I posted, if you trust me, then you can trust that I'm not trying to scam you. I'm not making this shit up. This is a real person, and it's a person that I care about very much. So
is there no like bus ride things? I know there's programs to where in some cities, not every city, of course, or anything like that, but there is programs where they'll give rides.
Well, no, I haven't been able to get any of that for myself. And Grace doesn't need help with a ride. She needs help to not be evicted and thrown out in the street, and money to cover the cost of traveling to the municipality where she has to go for radiation treatment.
Right.
I just
she has to go to a different town.
Diabetic, another year and a half with no car until I can afford to buy one cash on the barrelhead, because I know that nobody's going to help me. They haven't. I got ignored. I begged for a year. I was begging for money to buy Depends when I had no Depends, and I'm soiling myself. That's one of the complications I have, is neuropathy of the bladder, where if I don't have Depends, to wear, my bladder cannot sense when it's empty. So I can go to the bathroom and come downstairs, come back to my computer to work, and have a coughing fit, and I'm soaking my clothing and what I'm sitting on. So not having $60 a month to buy Depends is not, we're not talking about frivolity here. And, it's like when I begged, and Annette can attest to this, and not only did nobody help, but people that were living comfortably were like, oh, I can't help, or, they didn't even say anything. They just ignored. And these are people that are living comfortably. They're not living in a house without heat and without hot water, with a fucking roof that's collapsing.
Okay, and so that right there is the root, is the ignoring. That's the root of what we're talking about today. Okay, so that's where I want to focus right now, is the ignoring of people when you are begging to help save somebody's life. And what is frustrating to us, not just within the Yang Gang, but just human beings in general. Hold on, my alarm's going off. Human beings in general, it will ignore. They won't look a homeless person in the eye. Like, I keep a little dish on the dashboard of my car. I have like one of those Velcro dash covers, and so I put a Velcro on this little dish, and I throw all my loose change in there, and when I can afford to do so, I'll throw dollar bills in there. And then if I come up on a homeless person at a stoplight or a freeway exit or whatever, then I'm ready. I've got like a handful of change and maybe a couple bills. That'd be all right, and I'll just give it away. And I'm broke as a joke. And I will purposely save that money Sometimes I purposely will buy like a box of granola bars and a thing of water to keep in my car. So if I see somebody like that, I'll give them a couple granola
Yeah.
bars and a bottle of water.
Yeah.
I have given the my hat, gloves, and scarf. I had a full set to a woman on the freeway exit downtown Minneapolis when it was like 20 below, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I could see her frostbitten fingers. I took them right off of my own body and handed them to her. So like, we can't ignore these people. They're human beings. And that is the point of this thing today, is that we cannot ignore these people. They do have value. I have a friend
it really hurts that when you're a part of a what you think is a movement that's all about humanity first, and yet you're pleas for help and unmet needs go ignored, while people that may not be wealthy, but they're a lot fucking better off than you, don't even feel that your life is worth $5 a month in a Patreon, so that you can, because
or even
$1. It's like, what is this really all about? And then you turn around, and then you see people with privilege who shove the poorest aside in this movement and hog the mic and seize the spotlight for themselves. And they do it in the name of, quote, for the poor, when nothing is being done for the poor. Okay? If anything, there's a lot being done to the poor. Silencing, censoring, being told to shut up and stop complaining about our problems.
Well, I think a lot of the
hard enough, when I paid more than my fair share of life's dues and got nothing for the trouble and effort except shit and shoved in it. So it's like, I'm not as in danger right now as I was a year ago because of a couple of angels in Yang Gang. But I'm nowhere near out of the woods. I mean, I could literally die over this coming weekend, from an Arctic polar vortex coming in, from my little pellet stove not being enough to keep my house warm enough that I'll wake up if I go to sleep. And I don't see anybody caring about that. It's like, oh, sorry for your luck. Why don't you try getting a job? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? As if I didn't already think to try all these things. Nobody struggles to earn a STEM degree, while they're homeless and eating from trash cans, with the aspirations of ending up having to beg for non-forthcoming help from a society that don't give a shit and won't help by the time they reach what should have been their golden years. And that should be common sense. This is something that it shouldn't take a genius level IQ to grok, if you feel me.
Right. Well, I think a lot of because Yang Gang at first was pretty damn charitable from what I've seen, from what I remember and seen and all that. Again, I haven't been really connected for about a year now, pretty much since pandemic. But I think the pandemic really has, and this is no excuse. I just think this is a correlation, not necessarily. It actually could be a causation. I'm not really sure about that, but definitely at least a correlation of the pandemic and economic insecurity for everyone. I mean, of course, you got the uber rich people, whatever, that in our perspective isn't hurting. In their perspective, they quote unquote are, because their profit margins are less or whatever the fuck the case is. But everybody is in an economic squeeze, especially over the past year, and I think that's a big reason why
a lot more people not getting their basic survival needs met are getting the worst of it, and there isn't all this help out there. Nobody begs because they enjoy getting not helped and getting people accusing them of being a scammer, or having people attack them and victim blame them and say, well, why don't you just get a job? As if you never tried anything in your life after starting out a million miles behind the 8 ball. I mean, that after suffering that your entire life, from youth up until you're in your 50s, that would be enough to build up a serious belly full of rage.
Well, that's the capitalistic view of the working class as quote unquote the poor class, which is what always seems to be in a capitalist society that is a pyramid pretty much scheme.
And yet when one of those working class comrades or brothers or sisters ends up with a disabling health problem or gets surplused out of the job market, their former working class brothers and sisters sure forget about them toot sweet. Then it's like, oh, you know what? Those people that get SSI, they're just scamming. They're just trying to get free money to live large off the working class.
Right.
Most of the
Well,
abuse
those
that
people-
I suffered and took did not
I've been
come
accused
from.
of that
Yeah.
because I don't. You can't see my disability. You can't see my disabilities. They're all
Yeah, it's not like
invisible.
you're going to show everybody your
hidden by
option tag
clothing
on the
and
show.
things like that. But yeah, I've had to answer for that. I feel bad for having the disability placard for my car. And when I park in a disabled, I don't always park in the disabled spots. At the beginning of my errands, I feel pretty good and I'll park a little, further back or whatever. But then by the time I'm done with my errand running, I'm like just super sore and I can't walk very far. So that, I kind of, but I feel guilty about it, you guys. Like, I don't feel like disabled enough, or something like that. Like, I feel guilty for having these limitations that I have zero control over. There's nothing I can do to change the limitations that I have.
Well,
at all.
that's
And,
I've read about this actually not too long ago. That's a psychological thing. Was victim's guilt? I think it's called, or something like that.
That's because victim got made into a dirty word in our country. I mean, we live in a society where if you're a victim of an injustice, if you're a victim of bad luck, if you're a victim of circumstance, it's, you get nothing but attacked. You don't get helped. You don't get lifted up. You don't even get a fair fighting chance.
Right.
What you get, no matter what you do, and no matter how hard you try or how many things you try, you get nothing but shit and shoved in it and told that if you can't succeed when you're competing against people that far outclass you in advantages and privilege, that, oh, well, sorry for your luck, tough shit. Suffer, but shut up. Suffer quietly. Don't complain about your problems. We don't want to hear it. If you tried hard enough, you wouldn't be poor. You must have done something wrong. You must have been stupid.
Oh, yeah. The whole bootstraps argument. Yeah. That's a bunch of bullshit.
And it's like, that's why excuse my French, I am without apology a very bad-tempered bitch, because at the age of 54, after everything I've suffered, I've had my fill, and I'm done being polite. They didn't listen when I was polite. They didn't listen when I wrote a 351-page book, bringing receipts. A book that Amazon screwed me and no longer covers the hard copy anymore because they decided to screw over the print-on-demand company that I went through. But if you can get it on Kindle, this is the book. I suggest reading it. I wrote this and self-published it 13 years ago.
What's the last word? I couldn't see the full word.
It's called
Dimwits?
Classism for Dimwits.
That's cool.
Okay. And it's like, I brought receipts, man, to point all this out. And every valid complaint that I had in that book is just as valid, if not more so today than it was 13 years ago. And it's like, I tried the polite route. I've tried educating people. I've tried explaining. I got sick and tired of being made into the supplicant when, number one, I didn't consent to be born in this society as a poor female in a society that treats women like shit, that treats poor people like shit, that treats black people like shit.
Yet we're all supposed to be American exceptionalists. Right.
Oh, we're exceptional, all right. Let me tell you what we're exceptional at. We are number one at producing serial killers. Yay.
Right.
Number one at that. That's something to really be proud of. you know, and you can fact check me on that. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. You know, I'm telling the truth.
Oh, I know. We're number one in just about every category you don't want to be number one in. No,
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, we're number one in fucking COVID.
Yeah. Oh, actually, we are number one in one good category that I saw. This is a few years ago. Might have changed now, but there was only one good thing that I saw. We're number one in cancer surviving. Of time, length of time. Yeah.
Okay.
I contributed to that.
Huh? Yeah. That's it, though. That's literally
contributed
the
to
only
that.
good thing I could find.
But yeah, I
Well,
mean, so that's why
great.
it's like I get angry, and I get angry without apology because my anger is a righteous anger. You know. And
Well, I get it, but no matter what the grievance is,
like,
anger
after
is never
decades-
received greatly.
Well, the thing is, being polite wasn't received greatly. Educating
That's
people
true.
wasn't received greatly. You know,
Well,
asking.
I guess
for
what
help.
I'm saying, you can still be aggressive without being. What would you say? Would you call yourself a bitch or something? Whatever you call
I'm
it.
proud of it.
Yeah, I get it, but I'm just saying, like, it's a really tactful and very
Crying,
a line you got to really balance. But
like crying, begging, pleading, and talking nicely, and doing all these right things, and talking in just the right way, and using just the right tone. Your entire life
it's honestly it's a coercion tactic.
has gotten you nowhere. Then it's like, yeah, okay, maybe it's time.
Well, it's
one bitch.
It's the but that's a coercion tactic, which we actually as a whole, when it comes to like humanity first or whatever, probably have to definitely make a better stride in the whole coercion thing, because that it basically coercion is not a bad thing. If you can coerce, let's say people with funds or with support networks or whatever to be able to help you, there you go. So I think we need to get better at coercing, which to start we have to speak their language, to be honest with you. And
Exactly.
so once we start speaking their language, they can get on board with us a little bit more. And
I tried, and it's like I got nothing. You know what finally got me some help was being real and being myself. And
well, I mean, that's usually goes pretty far.
you know what? And I'm about as real as you're gonna get. The good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. If somebody can't handle me at my worst, they don't deserve me at my best. But I've seen so much and I've suffered through so much that it was like this thing going down with Grace was just, and this was like right at the same time that I'm seeing this thing from other traders who are living comfortably, who didn't start out with nothing but a tiny little COVID check to trade with. They had good jobs. They're living comfortably. They're not disabled. They don't have expensive medical problems they're dealing with. They had like 50 fucking grand accounts and shit. And they're saying, oh, don't give any poor people that are asking you for help in DMs any money. And it's like, well, what are we pooling our profits for UBI for? Who are we helping? Who's getting it then? Because if Grace isn't worthy of help, and I'm done asking for help. I'm done. I'd sooner tell the whole world to go die in a fire before ever begging for one more dime, because of how horribly I got treated. And I'm just literally at the end of my rope. And it's like I'm thinking to myself, someone like Grace does not enjoy begging for help only to get ignored and not helped. She didn't complete her chemo like she needed to because she wasn't helped. If being nice and being quiet.
I have to take this call, you guys.
Yep.
And standing there, hat in hand, and having people like Annette use her platform to try to get help for her didn't work. Well, then maybe people with privilege who are more fortunate getting their asses ripped the fuck out so they don't ever need a colonoscopy for the rest of their miserable, selfish ass lives is the thing that's fucking needed to smack some fucking reality check upside their snot lockers. Because poor, oppressed people are sick and fucking tired of being polite.
So let me ask you this: are you just wondering? And you can say hell no, never, whatever if you want. But are you leaning towards socialist on a lot of
No,
things?
I'm actually an ex-revolutionary communist who came to Yang Gang because I saw that they really were not about what they claimed to be about. I saw members of the Bernie camp attacking people in Yang Gang who were poor and homeless for supporting Andrew Yang because they wanted and need, a universal basic income. Like they need it. Like there isn't all this help out there. As a poor marginalized person myself, who's now a little bit less poor, but nowhere near out of the woods myself, but I'd be dead if I wouldn't have gotten the help that I got. I just want to clear that up.
Right.
All right. I wouldn't be in a position to help other people who are struggling. Like I helped a person before I saw Grace's post, even though shit's tight for me right now too, But what was the question? I'm sorry. I just had a scroll moment.
Oh, I was just because you answered it. You said you're a former revolution. What was it?
Yeah,
Revolution
I saw these guys attacking. And this was after I wrote up this very lengthy treatise explaining what neoliberalism is, because most people confuse that with liberal politics. It's not. Neoliberalism is an economics model, and it's politically agnostic. I mean, there's conservatives and liberals that are neoliberal. Okay, it's an economic framework, and
right.
So I got done spending hours of my time working for free, helping this guy boost his freaking audience who was making 14 grand a month off of just his Patreon alone. And that's on top of the 6-figure job he had while he's sitting there bitching about the top 1%. When someone as poor as me, that motherfucker is the top 1%.
Yeah, but that's actually, regardless of what the guy was bitching about, I would try to get him on my side because he's got the funds.
Oh, I did. I was doing free work for him that he never, while I sat there having to beg for help to get pellets for my stove so I wouldn't froze to death in the winter, and beg for money to buy Depends so I wouldn't spoil my clothing.
Right. Well,
And
I mean,
he never parted with one dime. But then I saw him get his followers and encourage his followers to attack our friend Russ. I don't know if you know Russ. Grassroots
Russell
Yang
Jory?
Gang. I don't know his last name. Russ.
No,
Shit.
she is in.
Because I'm not going to lie, since joining the Yang Gang a few years ago, I've never met more Russells in my life. So there's a lot of them in the gang.
Right on. Oh, hey, Russell's a cool name. There's even a candy named after Russell. Russell.
Well,
Crowe.
Kurt Russell, that's the man. I love Kurt Russell.
I'm jealous. That son of a bitch has better legs in a mini skirt than I do. Do you remember that Tango and Cash? That was epic, man. Oh man, I'm really dating myself now. Well, I told everybody I was 54, so
yeah. Hey, shit. It may not be as old as you, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
and that was a classic movie, man.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, I mean, Yang Gang Russ. He also goes by Grassroots Yang Gang.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The American Dystopia, the Broke Folk Vote. He was doing the Broke Folk Vote by interviewing homeless people and telling them about Andrew Yang and universal basic income. And not one of these people for whom the so-called safety net, which is a joke, failed to help. Okay. Not one of them had, cared if better off people also got the money. They just cared that they weren't getting any money and their lives were fucking hopeless. And this guy, Steve Grumbine, one of these hardcore, quote, real progressives, communist, him and his bros he actually, told his followers to go attack Russ and the people he was interviewing, one of whom was a homeless mother of 4 living in a fucking tent with a disabled spouse. And when I saw that, I was like, you know what? I didn't give a shit about his background. I don't give a shit about what candidate they were supporting. I don't give a fuck if if this kid smeared green jello on his ass and ran down Main Street butt-ass naked. You pick on another poor person, you are picking on a member of my tribe. And these guys were vicious and saying that these people didn't want to work. They just wanted free money and wanted to leech off the working class and called them tools of the 1%. I mean, all kinds of just unforgivable attacks. And that forced me to sit there and rethink. I had been a hardcore commie without apology for the better part of 35 years. Because I needed to make sense of what happened to me, of why I was allowed to be exploited and oppressed as a poor female in this society. Why I was allowed to be thrown away and trafficked as a homeless 12-year-old girl. And then left to fend for myself and maybe escape if I was lucky at the age of 17 with only a 7th grade education and the fucking clothes on my back and no help from the society that failed me, that should have fucking protected me. Okay.
Well, we live in an economic system that is set up for humans as capital.
Yeah. And the thing is, you don't get any more commodified than that.
Yeah.
And, it's like, that's when I was initially very hardcore left without apology. But then I saw that these guys, they really aren't about the poor. They're only about punishing the rich to give the working class more luxuries. But they're not about the poor. But yet they were using the poor to lend credence to their movement. And that was a hard wake-up call for me. And that's when I was like, you know what? I can't, in clear conscience, continue to support a movement, to support candidates, to support other people who just use the poorest and most vulnerable and disprivileged as a poster child, while turning around and then attacking some of those same poor people for wanting money that they're not getting. And I don't care what anybody says. You need to first have a minimum level of basic stasis, economic security. And that includes, you also need to be able to be minimally abled. I mean, physically abled, to be able to get a job, even a government guaranteed one. If you don't have a car, if you have medical problems like I do and like Annette has, that really prohibit working outside the home.
Well, I mean, the trendy thing anyway is to work from home, and it's big trends are going that way anyway, to where we have isolation work.
But not all of us have high level software engineering skills. I have some, but not enough to even break in. I tried for 6 years to break into tech. I went through the Ruby on Rails summer code program for disadvantaged women. And it's like, no matter what I did, and it was impressive. I've showed other members of Yang Gang my GitHub. It's like, when you're poor and you're marginalized, no matter what you do, you're never good enough. And what you have isn't enough.
Well,
it's like the goalposts always get moved. And the gatekeepers always find yet one more excuse why you don't deserve a chance for a job. And after struggling for 6 years to never get a chance to get the experience I needed to get a job, it's like a crazy.
Well, let me.
I gave up after a while because it's like I saw the writing on the wall.
I get it. But let me. No promises or anything, but let me ask you something. You said you can code. You can code? Can you build website code?
I used to be able to, but I haven't looked at a line of code in 5 years. It would take me some time.
Well, if you brush up on it and you felt comfortable enough after brushing up on it to be able to do some basic coding when it comes to building websites, I got a friend of mine that's looking for somebody to help him out with his coding business. All he does is build websites for people. So, they're really pretty basic stuff. But he tried to get me on board. I don't code. I don't know dick about computers.
Well, where it was really hard for me is that I'm dyslexic.
Okay.
So I'm not the fastest learner.
Well, that's fine.
And that's a field where it's like you got to be able to code like a rock star, especially if you're a middle-aged woman, to be able to compete with these 20-year-old guys that have fucking computer science degrees from Stanford. And it's like, I can't.
Right. But this guy he owns his own business. I believe it's a co-op format too. He only has one other person working for him. It's not like some big company or anything.
As long as it ain't PHP, because with my dyslexia, I'll tell you, that shit would leave me wanting to put a fucking fork in my eye.
Yeah, I have no clue what the hell that even is. So
it's a programming language that it's like, oh man, I don't want to tell you this because you'll never want to get on an airplane, but the software that controls flight routes, which is all like based on freight, like the commercial passenger air service is really designed around air freight, transshipment lines. And the code for this is legacy PHP, which I can't do PHP, you know?
Okay.
I can't even learn it because with my dyslexia, there's certain programming languages that came easy for me, others not so much. What came easy for me was F# because it's like writing a math proof.
Okay.
Which is what I got a degree in.
And you said that's F#?
F#, but you can't really build websites very easily with F#. F# is more like for doing algorithms.
Well, see, that's
on Rails is too cryptic.
I'm a musician, so I know about F#.
Yeah. But Ruby was too cryptic because it just didn't make sense to me as a dyslexic. Python seems sort of doable, but I have not yet learned enough Python. I haven't had the chance because when you're not living comfortably and you're literally every day fighting to just not fucking die from a poverty crisis.
Right. There's not really a surplus of bandwidth to go into anything.
No. And I'm somebody who actually had enough of it, not to brag, but enough of an IQ despite my dyslexia to graduate with decent GPA, with a math degree, with a minor in physics 22 years ago, or 20 years ago, rather. And it was hard as fuck. But, Python looks like it probably would be. It's a lot easier to go with a website. For data-rich applications, I would love to do F#, but that's like more of a back-endy kind of thing. It's more of like an algo thing. But like I said, I haven't looked at a line of code in 5 years. When I got sick with Crohn's disease that was brought on by the stress of struggling, trying to break in to tech as a middle-aged woman who was disadvantaged, the stress from that just put my health in the shitter. And I wound up getting sick with Crohn's, and my husband put his foot down. He's like, you know what? Fuck this. You've been killing yourself. It's cost us money we couldn't afford for equipment and for books and for gas, and a vehicle payment to drive, to the nearest computer meetup, which was either 90 some miles east of me in Buffalo or 100 miles west of me in Cleveland or 130 miles south of me in Pittsburgh, because there's nothing here in Erie for that. And it's like, well, when you don't have an income and you don't have enough money to live, you can't afford to keep incurring costs like that to try to network and break into things. So after I got sick, that's when Donnie put his foot down. He's like, you know what? I lost my first wife. I'm not losing you. And
well, like I said, I mean, if you're interested, by the way, he's a middle-aged guy too. So it's probably, little bit more closer generationally than obviously you or I, but he's a 45-ish or something. So what
Well,
I'm saying is that
I'm not
you
your
could probably-
normal 54-year-old. Remember, my life got truncated when I was 12 in traffic. So I'm actually a 13-year-old tomboy, straight out of the movie Freaky Friday, trapped in a 53 going on 54-year-old body with the attitude of a 17-year-old rebellious little asshole.
All right. So you are a commie.
No, I'm actually not a commie.
I'm just
I'm
messing
against
with you.
oppression. And when I saw
Okay, well, how about market socialist?
No, I wouldn't say that either. I would say more like, I think Yang had it right. Humanity first, base capitalism, that there's a floor through which no one can fall, and that not being able to compete and be successful isn't a death sentence. Doesn't mean you end up like in a situation like our friend Grace.
Right, but with that system, you're still stacking people on top, basically, with a pyramid.
Uh-oh. Looks like he's a popular guy. He's got somebody banging on his door.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I don't know, Lance, and that's friend. But yeah, I mean, I even went when I wasn't even getting a chance for an entry-level job. When I started to learn F# because that I could succeed at as a dyslexic, trying to learn the code, and this was after being a poor older woman who didn't even know how to fucking use a computer until I was in my 40s because I never had one. So
Right.
I didn't have one until like the crash of 08, and I was just learning how to use a computer. I didn't grow up with knowing this stuff, how to use a computer. And there's a lot of gaps in my technical repertoire, because of that. But I thought, well, I got an idea. There's a problem in the trafficking survivor community where survivors aren't getting helped by all of these charities, all these nonprofits, these anti-trafficking nonprofits that are making bank off of women like me, off of our misfortune. And yet people think there's all this help out there for women like us. I'm going to prove by getting the data from the survivors themselves on just how little help there really is and the efficacy of these charities. So I put together a project called the Jackhammer, spelled Jackqueemmer, Jackhammer. It's kind of a play on words. And what it is basically, it was going to be, I didn't have enough skill level yet to take it to the finish line, but I had enough to get a hell of a good working prototype, a proof of concept as a terminal app that was set up kind of like a call tree, where you're taking in the data based on somebody's responses, questions on what kind of help did they receive? Was it the help they needed? Was it enough help? Were they not helped? Or they were just referred to another NGO,
Customer survey,
and sent on a wild goose chase. Basically, what the fuck's going on? And I went to pitch my idea at a pitch-in meetup where startups in the tech industry were going to pitch to try to get some funding to get their shit off the ground. So I went and struggled to teach myself how to make a pitch deck and make it look really good so I could compete and stand there and run my demo. And I took my laptop so I could run my terminal app on the back end that I did in F# that was taking in the responses that, that would be, that this app would do. I even had a plan for how to monetize it because I had it set up like bin verified or Intellius. Like when you pull a dossier on an individual, you have to pay for a report. Okay. It was set up that way that, you pay for a dossier on a charity or an NGO. If you want to report to see if they're really helping the people that they claim to be helping, that they're getting all this money for, some of it in public tax, some of it in private donations, but most of it in public tax dollars from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that should be going directly to poor people, but that hasn't been since welfare reform.
right?
So I go there and I'm really stoked, man. I'm thinking, man, I'm going to get to pitch my idea. And because I've got this perfect solution to monetize shit, on how like people can get a Jackhammer report on the charity. So they know that's if they really care more than just getting their tax deduction for donating to charity, right?
Right.
They really care about where their money's going. And if a charity wants to clean up if they get a fail score on their jackhammer report, they would have to pay to clean that up by submitting proof that they actually have helped people that they claim to be helping. And it would be a process like you or I would have to go through to clean up our credit reports and shit. They'd have to pay it. So it's like the perfect monetization solution here. And I go all the way to Buffalo, and I'm stoked. And I get there, and it's like I got told by the rich white dudes who were running the show to wait. I'm at the last one to go. Okay, that doesn't bother me. If I'm the last one to go, then maybe what I have to say and show the room will stick. Because things work like that. There's a staying power. If you're in the middle, you might not stand out. But if you're at one of the bookends of either first or last, you'll probably stand out. I'm thinking, okay, that's cool. Well, they ran out of time about 4 people before me. So I never even got a chance to pitch. I went there with my shit prepared to pitch. And I didn't even get a fucking chance. And then right after that, an email was sent out to everybody that was a member of that meetup saying that due to a lack of funding or lack of interest or whatever, that meetup would be canceled indefinitely. So I never got a chance to pitch in front of would-be investors and angels. It's like that just.
How about?
Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ramble.
Oh,
but
no,
then,
you're good.
Right after that, I got sick with Crohn's disease and then damn near died because I didn't even have health care at the time. If it wasn't for Obamacare's Medicaid expansion, I'd be fucking dead.
Right.
All right.
Well, if you try that again, though, if you try that idea again to try and pitch, honestly, what I would do if you do it, next time, I would actually try and find somebody, a pitch person, somebody who can that knows how to galvanize in a meeting or whatever. Whatever needs
Ariel's asking a question. Who did welfare reform? Bill Clinton. He danced and basically sucked the dick of Newt Gingrich and every right-wing misogynist fucking Republican in Congress because hurting poor women won him votes.
Right. Well, when it comes to Clinton and the whole Republican thing at that time, that was because Republicans were gaining steam, especially in the House, and they figured out how to. Well, that's when they figured out how to fundraise as a party.
Yeah, and that's when it was like right after that is when the Faith-Based Initiatives Act executive order was passed by George W. Bush on January 29th, 2001, which basically redirected a fuck ton of formerly earmarked welfare money for giving to faith-based private charities.
Was that part of the?
Come on, you know me. Do I look like the kind of woman to just shut up? Fuck no, I'm always being told to shut up and I complain too much. Yes, I complained. Nobody listened. Nobody heard. Nobody cared. I've been fighting this war for years.
I kind of vaguely remember that. Was that part of around the time where Bush signed, where was going with the whole? I think it was the basically set us up for what the student loan crisis we have now, or at least opened up the floodgate for that. Because I know he signed that as well, and I think that was around that same time.
That was his dad, Poppy Bush. Bush number one.
Was it?
Yeah, he was the one that under his watch that the Graham-Rudman bill was passed in 1991, which slashed Pell Grant funding and removed bankruptcy protection from student loans. And neoliberal Democrats, corporate Democrats, joined in with the Republicans, with the conservatives to push that shit show through right at the same time that jobs, including Biden, that jobs were disappearing, and you needed a college degree just to get a job as a fucking secretary. When it's like, no, that's a job that you really only need a high school diploma for. Yeah. And the employers started making it a requirement. Employers made it a requirement that you had to have a degree, even though you didn't really need a degree for the job.
Right.
Where the faith-based initiatives came into play was after Newt Gingrich, who was the House Speaker, the
Right.
Republican-controlled Congress during the Clinton years, but of course the Clintons
Right.
were third-way corporate Democrats.
Yeah, they were straight corporate centrists.
They were basically Republican light, which is like light
Yeah.
beer. You know, why drink?
And what's funny is during his because that's funny you mentioned that, because I remember during his second campaign for his second term, that's what all they were talking about, is him being such a middle of the road guy, and that's what we're campaigning on, and that's what's going to win America. I remember that.
And you know what? The thing is what ended up happening is that the poorest women in this country who never, the benefits of the feminist movement never trickled down to help us. Women from the top 20% got to benefit somewhat, but the economic oppression of poverty due to systemic discrimination, and women being abandoned by husbands and being left penniless with kids and all that, who were basically left to have to try to, scratch out a survival existence on welfare, which was never enough to live on, even at its most generous.
Right.
And what these assholes did was they put through this thing, and they ginned up this propaganda machine to tell working class white dudes who didn't face the discrimination that women face, and who weren't, saddled with the kids like poor women who were abandoned were, and said, "Oh yeah, you're working hard to pay for your couple of pounds of hamburgers, so that welfare queen over there can go live undeservedly large off your shit." And people, being gullible as they are, they drank that fucking Kool-Aid. They drank it hook, line. They swallowed that shit hook, line, and sinker. And before you know it, it was like poor women were nothing but leeches. If we wanted an equal opportunity for a breadwinning paying job so we could live, since we don't get to pay less for food and housing and utilities than a fucking white dude, okay? And we had to provide for ourselves because maybe we weren't lucky to be getting provided for. All right? We're talking necessity here. Not to prove a point, not to pick a fight, not to compete, just to survive. Right? This is what feminists of my generation were fighting for.
Yeah.
And it's like, these assholes like Rush Limbaugh calling us feminazis for wanting an equal chance to be able to live. You had privileged white dudes calling poor women gold diggers, okay, while out of the other side of their mouth saying that, women don't belong being in men's jobs because men need those jobs because they're the breadwinners. And then when poor women who were left out, or women who maybe were middle class but were left abandoned and deserted by their husbands, were economically left to literally starve in the fucking gutter, okay? Then it's like, you're a gold digger. No, you don't get to call poor women who want jobs Nazis, while at the same time telling poor women who want to be economically supported, in a marriage, gold diggers, while supporting and benefiting from the system that made goddamn sure that this country's poorest women would be kept down and kept poor in a permanent economic underclass. Many of us pushed into prostitution against our will. Many of us trafficked as homeless underage kids, as I was. Okay, average age 13. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of fucking consent there. And
Right, but
this was all happening, and everybody else in this country just accepted this as this is okay. But this is the only place in society that poor women deserve to occupy, is the gutter and an early grave. And after Clinton did his damage with welfare reform, there was nothing he did whatsoever to guarantee us jobs, so that, there wouldn't have been poor women on welfare. But there was no guarantee for living wage jobs for us. It was just, kicking women off of welfare. And part of welfare reform was giving financial incentives to the states for decreasing their welfare rolls by kicking people off who were otherwise eligible. Okay. And part of that whole thing with block grants to the state, okay, they are allowed to use that money that they are given for they don't even have to use it for the poor. They can use it for funding things like Teach Marriage to Poor Women programs, which is a joke. Because when you got men that don't want to accept another man's kid, won't marry you, don't want to support you because you're a poor woman, you're nothing but a liability. Okay? That Teach Marriage program is a joke. Why don't they teach it to the men? They're the ones that didn't want to fucking marry and economically support the women, the fucks.
Well, yeah,
They want to sell their wild oats and then slut for being single moms on welfare.
Right. Well, I mean, this entire country's systems and every single one of them is built on inefficiency, and that's how you make profits off of it.
And
through
this is
more
what
inefficiency
when
and
Clinton,
people being disenfranchised and left out.
and the thing is, people like me, yes, younger women now have opportunities, but let's not pretend that women my age and older who suffered, who are from the very bottom, okay, that at our age now, after a lifetime of cumulative poverty and disprivilege, that we now have the same opportunities as a healthy, fully able 25-year-old girl or 25-year-old guy for that matter, because that dog don't hunt. And opportunities have a shelf life. Understand me.
Right.
So what happened was after Clinton did this damage and dumped the poorest women and people in general, not just women, even poor guys that are disabled that were on welfare too, got thrown off. Bush Jr. comes along. And the first thing he does when he becomes president in 2001 is he signs the executive order number 13199, the Faith-Based Initiatives Executive Order, which redirected what little bit of money was left after the states got block grants to not help the poor.
Right.
And redirected money to private charities, which are allowed to get away with discrimination. They don't have to be accountable for denying people help. The loopholes in the IRS code are wider and deeper than the Marianas Trench. They don't have to prove that they deserve this money from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services or from various different states' block grants to get it. All they have to do is, I'm a 501(c)(3). I'm a faith-based charity, even though they could be full of more fucking bullshit than a Texas cattle ranch.
Well,
and there's literally nothing in the current IRS code or the current legal system or the current, that even allows for this to be entered into the public discourse for people to be made aware of this. But this is something I've been fighting for years to get out there, because people who are not poor, who've never experienced life as badly off as myself or Grace, okay, they don't think about this because they haven't had to. They've been lucky. But that doesn't mean they're not next. And this is my whole point. This is not a static condition that just remains at a constant level. It has gotten worse. And I wrote about this in Classism for Dimwit. I spoke about this while getting told to shut up and quit complaining and just get a job and blah, 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 blah. As if I never thought to try any of those things. Because, what was I doing going to college for a STEM degree? I must have just aspired to end up a poor beggar in my 50s. Right. If you believe that, I got some beachfront property for sale in Arizona and a fucking bridge to nowhere to connect to the ocean. Hey, gotcha? See? So this is what happened. There is no help for the poor except these charities. And there's sites like Charity GuideStar and Charity Navigator and GuideStar where people can go look up the charities. But here's the problem. It's that these sites were designed by the charities themselves to report and fluff up their own image. Do you think these jokers are going to give themselves a black eye by admitting that all they've done was set up a tax shelter for the rich and a conscience laundering vehicle for the middle class while not helping the poor, just to get money to create revenue streams for their upper middle class selves and having an executive board on which to park bored unemployed relatives? Get real. This is where the jackhammer came in. This is what the jackhammer was designed to expose, to prove that there's no help. And maybe then people like me or Grace, when we were begging for help, would have been fucking believed. And I'm just so upset that I couldn't get jackhammer done.
Okay.
Because I think that would have really helped a lot. I think, but as long as people don't care, and let's face it, from what I've seen, I don't have any faith at all in the majority of people caring, even within Yang Gang. There is about 4 or 5 people I know for sure by personal experience that I can say legit care, legit help, and legit care enough to help. And when I got help, they knew they were helping somebody who would pay it forward, who would shoot some money when I can, to another person who's even more badly off.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. I
Okay.
just,
Oh.
telling Annette that the jackhammer would have exposed all of this garbage. It would have exposed it because the data does not lie.
No, but apparently, according to the Trump administration, data can be manipulated, like the missing doses of whatever, the vaccine or whatever. I don't know if y'all heard about that.
Data can be manipulated, but raw data does not lie. When
I
you
know.
have
I'm just
raw numbers. When you have the raw numbers and you've got receipts.
It is loading on my end. There's Lance again. Okay.
Wow, you really lagged.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'd like to.
It's been so long since I've had an opportunity to speak that I don't even know what I wanted to say, like fucking an hour ago. I completely lost my train of thought. I have no idea now.
What you wanted to do to get people recentered, to find a solution to help, people like Grace. That's what this is really about. This was the final straw for me, Annette. It really was. And I broke down in tears. And I've been fighting back tears the whole time I've been on your show today. Because I'm just so angry. Because nobody deserves that. Okay? Nobody.
Well, again, the only thing I can think of is, and I know you've already went through the whole problems, or with going through, starting a 501c3 or something like that.
The
I know that's
industrial complex.
Yeah, I mean, but outside of that and doing some fundraising, like literally just basic fundraising, bake sales or something, whatever, car washes. That's about the only thing I can think of, at least right now, top of my head, for any kind of solutions to try and get, resources to the people that need it the most.
So Humanity Forward was doing very well with that.
That was, by the way, the only charity that ever helped
me.
me. Legit, straight up. That was
I
the
got a
only
little something from
charity
them.
that ever helped.
It's not ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a one-time
I've
shot
seen
in the
people
arm.
talk about self-funding, like privately self-funding UBI. Have you heard anything about that? Like, can we self-fund UBI? How would that work?
Well, I saw what I thought.
As private citizens.
I thought
They call it the citizens' dividend or something. How can we do that?
I saw something that I thought initially it got my hopes up. Like you heard me explain earlier, I wasn't lucky to get in on that GameStop short squeeze trade of a lifetime because I wasn't made aware of it until after it was too late. And
did you join that Reddit though?
Oh yeah, I joined Reddit. I just, and I was telling other traders there who were getting messed over by Robinhood that there's no reason for Robinhood to not relinquish their, or for another broker that they want to transfer to not accept their stocks or any other equities they might have, because brokerage firms can do something known as ACAT, which means that your cash gets transferred rather quickly, okay, very simply, but your stocks or options or futures contracts or whatever the fuck it is you're trading, that gets transferred via a system called ACAT. Now, I don't know what that acronym stands for. I used to know, but I forgot. But it's standard operating procedure that if you change accounts, if you change brokerage firms, that your new broker can ACAT all that shit over for you. So when all these other brokers were basically standing up and, saying that they weren't going to accept people from that were looking to leave Robinhood because of the shafting that Robinhood was giving, the Wall Street better guys over this GameStop thing, and letting them ACAT their shit out of there, I stepped in and I was like saying stuff like, no. That might be in violation of SEC regs right there. I mean, you're allowed to, I would check into that, because it's, there's a fine line in the sand and with that legalities of that. And we're talking about a very basic procedure that's common industry practice, is ACATing your stuff over when you change a broker. And I was, basically trying to help out in that way. And
well, I didn't know, because I know that they talk about a lot of other stocks about doing that too, or trying to do that too, from what I've heard. So I'm not on there, so I don't know.
Well, the guys.
Well, I didn't know if there was anything that might see your, having your eye that you might put in there.
Well, here's what happened. I joined a Facebook group of some of those guys from Wall Street Bets at our Yang Gang that suggested this. Mm-hmm. And they suggested setting up and doing a sort of a private UBI, since our government is obviously going to not act right. I think we've got the message a long time ago about that.
For now.
Something great. I finally found my tribe.
Oh, can I speak?
I was trying to explain what happened after that, but go ahead.
Okay. We've been on here for 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I've had enough. So we didn't really talk about moving forward. We didn't really come up with any solutions.
Can I answer Lance's question?
We went on several tangents.
Guess not.
And I'm really frustrated. I don't feel like we made much progress. We haven't come up with any idea, any way to help Grace. No solutions for that. And we only have one viewer left anyway. So I think it might be Ariel, but I'm not sure.
I wanted to answer Lance's question.
Anyway,
very good question.
Well, thanks for coming on.
He wanted to know what happened. And what happened was the guy who thought of the idea, and I thought, this is one of the guys who made bank on that trade. And I thought, yeah, sure. Even though I wasn't one of the ones that made out, it's like, I have trades that are profitable. I'll share a portion of my trades, winnings, even though I'm nowhere near as well off as these guys. I'm trading my way out of poverty.
You're breaking up.
But I'll share a portion of mine to put in towards this to help people. And then the very next day, I see the same individual who made this suggestion and who wanted to get all that set up, saying in another Facebook group that we're both in, telling other people in this cryptocurrency group to not give any money to any poor people who are asking for help in DMs in that group. And I thought, this is really fishy. That really left me feel like, man, we are so fucked. But yeah, I'd like to talk with you some more about your thing with the website, dude, and explain more about the profit sharing idea that I thought was a great idea. Because there are a lot of small account traders that they might be a little better off than me. They might be a little bit less well off than me. I don't know. But if everybody is pooling and we're building something up to do what essentially the government should have been doing all along. then it's like, fuck yeah, I'm hands down for that. You know, it's like,
Right.
now I finally found my tribe. And then it's like the next day I see that post in another group, and I'm thinking, oh man, how quickly people forget how to be humanity first.
Yeah.
And I was just left in tears because I'm thinking about Grace. How would she feel if she was one of the people asking for help and to be met with not helped, distrust, being ignored, or being deluged in having what little energy and time she has sucked up by a bunch of useless have you trieds? You know, she doesn't need that. And it just, I'm sorry. I'm done now. Lance, let's you and I talk after we get off of here. We'll talk about your friend with the website thing, because I can brush up on my Python and help him out. And we'll talk about the idea that almost I thought was going to get off the ground, which would have been wonderful. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Just hit me up on, I guess, DM me on Facebook.
Are you on my
And,
friends list?
I don't know. To be honest, I'm hardly ever on. To be honest with you, that's
Me too. Every time I get on Facebook, I think my IQ drops by 50 points.
Yeah.
But seriously, I don't know how to get a hold of you off of here. So DM me or friend request me. I'll friend you, and then we can collab and see how we can, communicate on a different medium other than Facebook. If you don't like being on Facebook, we can do something else like Zoom.
Whatever.
We can do Zoom calls or whatever. That's cool. And we can
Right.
collab and rub our heads together.
Let me run everybody's. I think I have. Hold on a minute. I have Jacqueline's name, so you can find her, Lance. Hold on. I have it somewhere.
Okay. What are you sending it to me or something?
I'm Jacqueline Homan. You can just find. I'm like, yeah, it's hard not to find me. I might be a bitch, but I'm a bitch for a good cause. I don't like to see anybody suffer.
Right.
Because to me, human rights is a word that has a meaning. It means universal, and it means everybody, including people we don't fucking like.
Okay, so here is Jacqueline's Patreon. 99 Reasons Why. On Facebook, she's Jacqueline S. Homan. And on Twitter, she is Jacqueline Homan. Here is mine. On Facebook, I'm Annette Anderson. Twitter at Yang Mentum. YouTube and at The Peacemaker. Email yanggangforlife@gmail.com. Cash App, because I do actually pay for this platform. So if anybody would like to throw a couple bucks my way, that would be fan-freaking-tastic. I think here's one thing that I've been wanting to say for a long time now, is that one way that we can probably inspire people to want to help is to work on our approach. Nobody wants to be approached by an angry person screaming at them. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. It does not work. And so we need to work on our approach. So we need to be able to, I understand that we are passionate about things. Very, very passionate. And I also understand that we have every right to be angry about the things that have happened to us in the past. But that anger does not serve us. So we need to let go of some of the anger and clear some space in our minds and in our hearts for something other than anger to fill it. Maybe something like hope, or I don't know what it is. I don't know what, but like we just need to take a breath and tone it down, because nobody's going to listen to us. We didn't have more than 4 viewers the entire time. People jump on and then they jump right off because everybody's screaming. And so we need to work on that. If we are going to get anybody to listen to us at all,
It's
we
been my
need to
lived
work on our
experience
so
that trafficking survivors.
on that note, I am going to end this, and we will maybe try again another day to see what we can do to figure out how to help Grace. And I would also like to figure out how to help our friend Anthony Marlowe. If anybody made it this long to the end of this thread or stream, if you're still here, our friend Anthony Marlowe also is in very dire need of some financial help. And even if you gave him $5 so he could eat today, that would be amazing.
Do you have
And I would be
information for who to
forever
send
eternally
it?
grateful.
Do you have a
So,
PayPal? Do you have anything for how to
Thank
send
you
it?
for those who stepped in. I'm sorry for those who, all the arguing and all the fuck offs and things like that. Like, I apologize. That was not my intention at all. And in the future, moving forward, again, if you've made it this far, we don't attack each other like that. Like, that was completely uncalled for. None of that was called for. And next time it happens, I'm just going to cut everybody off because that was a bunch of shit. So, all right. On that note, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day.